All right. Hey, welcome everybody. We're a little low in numbers. I see Bob there. That's really all that matters. But, I don't know if there are others on there that we don't see. Oh, yeah. Ron, Ron. Yeah. So welcome everyone. Allison. Oh yeah. Well, Allison's famous now. That's our. Don't forget the little people here in Alabama. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Bob's the important one, so we got it.
Negative.
Well, hey, welcome to this month's ASSP meeting. We're certainly down in numbers, but that's okay. We've got a lot to talk about, and we'll do so as we normally do. And as in our traditional format, we'll call ourselves to order, and we'll stand. The flags in the back of the room. Join me in pledging the allegiance, and then I'll open us up in prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Hey, God, we just thank you for this opportunity, an opportunity to serve you and serve others. Help us, Lord, send those people our way that we might truly make a difference in their lives. Bless this food as we eat in a little bit, and also touch our speakers, and then give us safe travels wherever it is we may be going. We love you in Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen. All right. Well, look, we're gonna get started with our speaker, and then right after our speaker, we'll have some lunch, and then a few minutes into lunch, we'll cover a few business items. But before I introduce the speaker, I did want to go around the room because I invited a dear friend of mine to join us today. Actually, I invited several friends, but a couple of them weren't able to make it today. But and I want you guys to get a chance to meet her, and then we've got some other another new face in the room. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. And you saw Bob, Allison, and Ronald up there on the screen. But Carol, will you just take a second and introduce yourself to us?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone, or actually good afternoon almost. I'm Carol Pinkerton, and I am with a company called Go Rescue, and we are 25 years old. And our specialty is AEDs and CPR and life-saving solutions. So we all know with all the commotion actually, and that's been going on, and talk with Damar Hamlin, what happened to him. I just really want you to know that we are here to help you guys, have you rescue ready for all of your sites. Your AEDs, are they in place where they're supposed to? Are they up to date? Are your individuals trained in both CPR and AED? Let us know. We have bleeding control classes as well, with bleeding control kits that go onto site. I've got a card and a little piece of write-up over here. If you want it, that's fine, but I'd love to be able to speak with you and help you. Make sure that you're rescue ready, and also on the state and federal level compliant.
Excellent. And Carol represents Go Rescue, as she said, and that's Brady McLaughlin's fund. You guys, Brady's been around and been part of ASSP for quite a while, in and out, and he's just doing a wonderful ministry and business with that program. Sir, how about you?
I'm Jason Timmons with Russo Corporation. We're a foundation and utility contractor here in town.
Welcome. Are you a member of ASSP?
I am.
Excellent. Well, welcome. Regardless, welcome. But I just want to, hey, Tom, who are you?
I'm with the University of Alabama Safe State Program. We are the free consultation group for the state of Alabama to all small and mid-sized companies, and I'm a safety consultant for it.
And he's a slated president to take my place. Should there not be any other nominees? We're looking forward to you leading us here at the Alabama chapter. Jason.
Jason Hyde, I'm the compliance assistant specialist for the Birmingham area office for OSHA. I'll be around for another couple weeks, and
yeah, we want to hear more about that. He's got a surprise for us.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Joel Batiste. I'm the new area director of the Birmingham area office. I'm just here to meet everybody.
Yeah. Looks a little different than Ramona, huh? Fair enough.
Joe Schultz, I'm the safety manager for Garrison Steel.
It's a steel fabricator and a rat company.
Justin Shepard, Vice President of Operations for Ergo Science. We do injury prevention, and I'm the program chair for ASSP.
Vincent Scott, I'm a safety manager at Kratos Defense here in Birmingham, which is Kratos SRE. We still do the testing that that Southern Research used to do, but we're owned by a different company now. So Kratos, bigger group, missiles, drones, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting work.
Nice.
We want a tour.
Yeah.
We should.
Me too. Thinking the same thing. Jason, come introduce Joel formally. No, I'm sorry. Are you gonna introduce Justin? I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Jason. I just threw you for a loop. You're introducing Jason.
Yeah, still got
Oh,
some.
yeah, Paul Thurber. Hey, there's Matt too. Again, I'm current president here at ASSP, Alabama. I did want to give the guys on screen a chance to introduce themselves as well. I represent a company called Everguard AI. We're an artificial intelligence sensor-based company, and we're growing like absolute crazy. Bob, introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, everybody, I'm Bob Fitzgerald. I'm with WTW, formerly known Willis Towers Watson. We are an insurance brokerage firm, and I help our risk control team across the U.S., primarily Southeast. I'm also your Region 4 Deputy RVP, and I've been involved in the Alabama chapter for a number of years. Thank you.
Ron?
I'm Ron Turner, live in Anniston, work at BAE Systems in Anniston, and been an ASSP member for a long time.
Thank you, Ron. Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison Short. I now just recently, as of 2 weeks ago, I work for Mimic, which is a work comp insurer. So I'm a safety management consultant for Georgia and out a little bit into Tennessee and the Carolinas. But I'm also the Alabama Chapter WISE liaison for the last year, and also co-host the Safety Justice League podcast with those two guys as well. So running around a lot in the industry and have been an ASSP member for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else we can't see? Matt, how about you real quick? Tell us who you are.
Hey everybody, Matt Hollup, UA Safe State, interim executive director, past president, and before we're done, I'll make a mention about our upcoming elections. I guess when we get down to
Business.
good to see everybody here.
Yeah, I'm ready, Justin. Sorry about that.
So our speaker today is Jason Pikes. I did not like that introduction. Maybe there's something that I don't know about, but Jen has been available for the last several months. He's been at all of our safety stuff, both here and at ABC. He has a background in safety, both with OSHA and with our village areas. So thank you for your service there. And with that, I'll turn the time over to you.
All right. What's my time frame here?
You got 2 hours.
2 hours. Oh, I can talk for 2 hours. I'll do that.
We'll go 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay, so I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the time that you guys give us to, as OSHA, to give us the opportunity to come up and give these briefings. All of you guys are seasoned safety professionals. All of you guys have all heard the OSHA updates on multiple occasions, I'm sure. And there's a lot of information in these that you guys already know. As I go through the presentation, we're going to discuss some stuff. I may skim over some things that, you know, but if you guys have questions, I'm not going to skim over a slide and just say run on, but I'll ask you guys if y'all need more elaboration on it. Okay. There's a, yes, sir.
Push down to go next.
Awesome. Down. I am the compliance assistant specialist for the Birmingham area office, as I mentioned in the intro earlier. I am in that job for another couple of weeks. I've taken a position with the General Services Administration as a safety manager for Region 4. So I missed being a safety manager and being on the leading side of the safety world. And so I took that job. If you want to discuss it, we can discuss it after the presentation. Also, if y'all need compliance assistance work, if y'all are looking for any compliance assistance work or any help between now and when my replacement will get here, Mr. Batiz will be able to provide that, or Francisco Garcia. Most of you guys have met Francisco out of the Mobile office. He came to the ASSP meeting, or I mean the ABC Alabama meeting last week, and many people met him there. But he's excited and he's looking forward to being part of taking over this stuff. Now, on to the OSHA update. The big point of the OSHA update is just to kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on, what's changed. Most of it hasn't. OSHA as an organization don't change but every 10 years, right? Is that true? It takes 10 years to put a new regulation in play. The big thing is again, state partners, safety health professionals have helped us. OSHA's, if it wasn't for you guys going out there and finding things and working with your organizations to do the right thing and to take care of your employees, OSHA would, you know, we're a small organization. I mean, there's what, 15 people in the Birmingham office?
So this.
15 compliance officers in the Birmingham office, 2 double ADs and an area director and CAS position. So there's not very many people to cover the entire North Alabama area, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit more, but typically the coverage is mainly consisted of more lagging indicators, more reactive, right? They don't have the people to be proactive, and that's where you guys come into play. And that's the great thing about being a safety manager and in the safety world on y'all's end is y'all can look at those lagging or those leading indicators. Work fatalities in America. All of us have worked hard to make this happen. The work fatalities have went down from 38 a day in 1970 to 13 a day in 2020. Now, again, some of these numbers are 2 years, 3 years off, but we're dealing with Bureau of Labor Statistics to get the numbers, and you know, statistics kind of take some time. So there's going to be some dates in here where we're a couple months off. This is the newest slide sent from the national office. This is the January 2023 update that they sent. So again, this is the most current as of right now information that we can have. So fatalities, 38 a day to 13 a day, that's a big deal, right? We hope to get to 0 a day, but as we know, there's other factors in play, right? Sometimes a little bit of not doing the right thing comes into play, even though you tell them all the time, but we want to get that down as low as we can. Worker injuries, that's the good thing. 10.9 incidents per 100 workers to 2.9. That's a big drop. The balanced approach, what does OSHA do? OSHA provides enforcement. That's the compliance, safety, and health officers, the COSHOs. That's them. They go out there and they provide that enforcement. They'll go on scene. They'll get on the site. They'll go through your area. They'll find the issues that's wrong, and then they'll write the citations and things like that. We'll talk about that in a minute. The outreach and compliance assist. There's outreach efforts out there, and the compliance assistance. That's what I do, coming out, speaking to you guys, providing the OSHA updates. Technical assistant, all the things that the compliance assistance provides, and hopefully I've been able to provide that for you guys over the last year. How are we organized? Everybody understands the map, right? The OSHA map. And for you guys here, we're in this area right there. So we're a part of Region 4. If you see the stars right here, and I think we'll talk some more about that, or we will talk about state plans. These states right here all fall under state plans. They do not fall under federal OSHA. These 4 states in the region falls under federal OSHA. Okay, so in the region, we have 4 states that are non-federal. They're state plan states, and then we have 4 states that are federal. And each one of those states that are federal, each one of the states that are federal have a CAS. Mississippi has a compliance assistant specialist. Alabama has 2, Georgia has 2, and Florida actually has 4. There's 4 compliance assistant specialists in Florida. You got the Fort Lauderdale office, the Tampa office, the Orlando office, and the Jacksonville office. Regional and area office functions. So what do we do in Birmingham? So we conduct inspections. We provide compliance assistance. We provide outreach. We provide training. One thing I've offered over the course of the last year is if you guys are out there, if y'all know anybody out there doing OSHA 10s and OSHA 30s, I can come in and do the intro to OSHA. So that's something OSHA does. So remember that when a new CAS comes on board, or even Francisco, if y'all want, give him a call. Or once that new CAS comes on board, give them a call and integrate them into those 10s and 30s. Get OSHA on, get an OSHA person actually in there discussing intro to OSHA. That's nice. That's a good person to have doing, talking about the organization. We also have penalty collection, which is the non-fund stuff, and abatement assurance. State plans, we discussed that. We're not in a state plan here in the state of Alabama. Does anybody have any questions about state plans? Might breeze over that a little bit if y'all don't. Good, ma'am.
Oh, yes, I'm just,
I know you're reading.
I was reading, yes, interesting, thank you.
Yeah, so the basic gist is OSHA, the federal OSHA gives states the right to say, we want to control our own safety stuff, right? And so OSHA says, okay, states, or let's say Kentucky, state of Kentucky wants to control their own OSHA programs, their own state program. So federal OSHA says, okay, well, you can control that as long as you meet or are higher than the national standard, right? And so the state of Kentucky, they take that, they have their own inspectors, they have their own compliance assistants, they have all their own stuff. And then they run OSHA. And they're in charge of everything. Some states are in charge of, some states have it to where they're in charge of everything in that state except for the federal. So like federal OSHA is not, federal OSHA is in Kentucky. We only control federal entities, post offices, military bases, things like that, right? But everything else in the state of Kentucky is controlled by Kentucky OSHA, right? The Kentucky state plan.
Let me say, I got my start with South Carolina State OSHA program.
Okay.
As an industrial hygienist.
Cool, okay. And now, how much of a difference was it? Was it a big difference between, was South Carolina State OSHA much more different than, let's say, federal OSHA?
No, as a matter of fact, we were sent to the feds for training, for approvals, all that stuff. We did as much as we could with them as we could. We were a little bit jealous at times of what they had backing them, but other than that, no, it wasn't much change.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? It's interesting. I don't know if I was running this, there's got to be money involved. Money always plays a slate in everything, right? They always say, if you ever want to know what the answer to a problem, follow the money. And get the solution. This banking thing that's going on right now is kind of scary too. Mentioning money, it just popped up in my head tonight. It's a bad thing to talk about. The benefits of the state plans, there's protection for government workers. Now, that's a big benefit, right? Because in the state of Alabama, who's protecting? My brother works for Gardendale. He works for the city of Gardendale. He's the park and rec director at the city of Gardendale. They're not covered under OSHA. What about the workers, the city of Tuscaloosa workers that are going out and doing trenching and stuff like that? They're not covered. But OSHA doesn't cover them, right? They're covered by the state. So who actually covers their safety? So that's, if with the state plans, they would be covered under that state OSHA, right? Now, the state of Alabama has a safety team that covers that, but maybe it could be a little bit more effective with the state plan. I don't know. The other benefits, flexible, innovative, more control for state governments. So it kind of reduces it down to the state, gives the states a little bit more power over their own people. Employer responsibilities. So as an employer, you guys know OSHA 5A1, right? The OSHA Act 5A1, where it says that you will provide your employees a place that's free from recognized harm, right? That's the thing. Provide a workplace free from serious recognized harm, recognized hazards. So if you know there's a hazard, you got to correct it. That's too easy. That should be common sense. But apparently before 1970, it wasn't. People just sent their employees out and said, hey, you go. How many of you guys have read the story about the building of the Hoover Dam? You ever heard it? There's a book, it's a book, it's a pretty cool book. And I can say this now because I don't work with them anymore. But the book is called A Book About Bechtel and the Men Who Built the World. And it's forget the name of the lady who wrote it. But it's a very interesting book because it'll kind of give you a little insight on how things went before. And it'll talk about, kind of give you an insight on contracting and stuff like that too. The big government contractors and how they do stuff. But it talks about Bechtel. Bechtel National is the one who had prime over building that Hoover Dam. And it's amazing when you read about it, and amazing to know about the amount of fatalities and everything that was involved. There's bodies buried in the Hoover Dam. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happened with that building of that structure. It's a very interesting thing. And that happened, the Hoover Dam was built early 1900s.
1930s.
1930s, yep. And so you're talking 1930s, and we didn't, so these regulations weren't around, right? This didn't come out until 1970. And so the purpose of that is so that we could codify safety. Employer, you have to be able to take care of your employees. You can't have them, scaling up the side of the Hoover Dam and falling off without any fall protection, right? That's where this stuff comes into play. Employers have to comply with applicable OSHA standards. Provide safety training. That's a big one, right? You can't have a safety program if you don't train your employees on what that program is. You can't have fall protection. You can't just hand an employee fall protection and say, hey, wear this, it's good, right? You have to train them on how to do it. You can't put them in a powered industrial vehicle and a forklift and say, hey, go have fun. You have to train them. Without that training, then you're going to have more accidents. That's why training is so important. I'm a huge believer in training. Most of you guys know my background's military. I spent 20 years in the Army, and I was an instructor in the Army for about 6 of those 20 years, and I loved it. That was my most rewarding time being in the military, because I got to train people on how to do the job right. And it was fun. And I'm a huge, like I said, I'm a huge advocate of training. And then the OSHA poster. That OSHA poster is interesting. Everybody knows about the OSHA poster? If you have Spanish speaking employees, do you think you need an OSHA poster that's in Spanish? It'd be really helpful. Now, here's my question that I've been asking for about 6 or 8 months now since the first person asked me this. If I post an OSHA poster in Spanish, but I have a large contingent of my employees that can't read Spanish, what do you do? How are we going to come up with the times, right? A lot of the Hispanic workforce, not a lot, but there's a good chunk of the Hispanic workforce that can't even read their own language. How are we getting this information out to them if they can't even read it? We're just checking a block saying we got that up there. Other countries have different education levels than we do. They have different education requirements. These folks have started working early in their lifetimes. So that's a question I've posed up even to the regional office and said, hey, look, we're trying to push information down to the Hispanic communities, but everything we have is written word. And I've handed multiple pamphlets out to community members, people in the Hispanic community, and they look at it and they're just like, they just set it down. Now that's maybe because they just don't want OSHA to give them some crap and they don't like OSHA in the first place, but that is what it is. So that's something to think about. Think about when you're pushing stuff out to, if you got Hispanic workers, or get workers from anywhere, find out if they even can read them. I don't know how you can work that, where you can find that information out without being, just straightforward with them, but if they can't, then you're going to have to figure out ways to work around that. You got to be creative. That's the OSHA poster. You guys know that. If you need that OSHA poster, you can go to OSHA.gov publications/poster and get that poster. You can print it off yourself. Any OSHA publication you need, you can go right there and get. I will tell you, I've been trying to order stuff from the OSHA warehouse since I've been here. I've put 2 or 3 orders in. I'm just not getting any pamphlets and stuff. They're not printing, right? They're not printing very well. Did y'all have an issue with that in Fort Worth? Really?
Lots of The poster, usually you can also go to the area office and request it for any pamphlets. You can go to the area office and request some. Usually we get safety people who come to the office and request, oh, can we get a poster? We're doing a presentation. Can we get some bullets about these topic A, B, C, and D? You give it to them. And if you didn't have it, you could point it to the website, or you can ask for them and then they can ship it to them.
Well, we can hopefully that we'll have a little bit better of a, because I've sent in 3 or 4 orders and just not getting anything, so. Hopefully we'll get to a better point in that.
I didn't see that many although the pamphlets over there were old, I think.
They're very old, yeah, exactly.
So that's not.
And I've got 2 or 3 spreadsheets where I've sent them requests for stuff and just haven't got anything. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? I like to have interactive conversations. I like to do more of a conversational thing instead of me just getting up here and just reading off slides. But if y'all want me to, I can just.
Yeah, Jason, this is Bob Fitzgerald. Good morning. Great
Hey, Bob.
presentation. Hey, that's a good point you brought up earlier, and I wanted to ask you what OSHA's thoughts was on that. If you have workers that can't read, and it's not just Spanish, it's any language, right? You know, you make a good effort to try to provide the information orally. But how would OSHA hold an employer responsible in that regard? I mean, you're not supposed to teach them how to read. I don't think so, right? But
You just gotta make sure that you try to make them understand, you know, what the poster says and what their rights are. And if not, you know, you say, well, this is the OSHA number. If you have any questions, or if you don't understand something, or if you think that we're failing at protecting you, this is the number that you contact, and you're free to do so. You just try to explain it verbally the best that you can. You don't want to offend or, you know, hurt anybody's feeling, that, you know, because I've come across plenty of times of people who can't read. And what I would do is, because, you know, we write statements, and I would give it to the person. I would notice, I was like, oh, this person can't read. And I would say, well, I apologize. My handwriting is terrible. So I'm going to read it to you so you understand.
Right.
And, you know, just because you don't want to make them to feel bad, you notice based on, you look at the body language and how they're reacting to what you're asking. So you can try to explain it to them, and just, problem is if they, you know, do you understand? You know, this is OSHA, you know, this is your rights. Same thing with any training. You have to, okay, can you put your safety glasses on? Show me how to put them on. Okay, because you'll be surprised how many people, is something as simple as safety glasses or earplugs, that people don't know how to put it on, and it'll be something that it'd be, you know, I think that's, you know, what do they call that, that it would be common sense. But I found in this job that there is no common sense. You know, it depends on the way that you were brought up. So, you know, and you'll be like, well, nobody's going to put their hand in there. Nobody's going to do this. Yes, they will. You know, and then you have to not base your common sense on what you know. You have to bring your mind to them. It's like, talk to them and say, do you understand? I just want to make sure you understand. Just have somebody in their native language, you know, talk to them a little bit, sit down with them, and there's a back and forth.
I know OSHA is real big on the documentation. So if a company were to provide this orally and just have something documented that they've covered the material orally, get some sort of a.
But you could give them a test orally too. So if the company has, you know, you provide training and you give them a test, instead of them answering, you know, circling A, B, C, and D, or writing the response, you can ask them. So, you know, how many feet do you need fall protection? We talked about this.
Sure.
So how many feet do you need fall protection? Oh, you know, they'll tell you, oh, 5 feet. Well, that's incorrect. And you can explain, okay, this is the right answer. So stuff like that, you can be innovative in that sense, how you want, you know, as long as you get the point across and they understand, you can document, you know, we discussed, we sat down with them. But we have this issue, you know, not only in Spanish, but I had this issue with Laotian and Atlanta when I was in Atlanta. Like the poultry will bring a lot of people from Laotian or the Philippines, or that, you know, or even in Latin America, there's a combination of language that I ran into, that it was like a combination of English and Spanish and something else. And that you can kind of, I speak Spanish, so I understand and some of it, but I'm like, there's something else in there. I don't quite put my finger on it, but it's different. So, you know, So, but we have pamphlets, Chinese, Russian, Mandarin and all that. So, but, you just have to prove, okay, we talked to them, we sat down, we have a system. This is what we do. And that way you did your due diligence as an employer. And you tried. But if you give somebody a test, you don't know, you have to have reasonable ways to find out if they're cheating. Because, I had that before that, electricians cheating on their tests and they get electrocuted or start, doing things they shouldn't be doing. But it's just to get them to try to understand. And if they don't understand, you just sit down with them again, and you record that. And then maybe, this is not the job for them, like, find another job.
I had the worst question you can ask someone is, do you understand? Because what you're going to get is what I call the bobblehead syndrome. Right?
If you see their eyes glazing over after you're talking to them for 5 minutes, then they're not getting the information.
Deer in a headlight.
Yeah.
Deer in a headlight.
That's right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and the other side of that, Bob, is, OSHA as an organization, we're a standards-based organization. We say you, employer, have to do this, right? Now, with that being said, there's nothing on there that says you, employer, have to do this training on this day and they have to do this much, we don't tell you that. We say you, employer, have to provide training in a language that is understood by your employees. And it's up to you as an employer to provide that training. And it's up to you as the employer to make sure that you know your employees, right? And you know what they need. And that's the benefit, that's the big thing. And one thing I've noticed in the North Alabama area, all the organizations I work with from Huntsville all the way down, one thing I've noticed is we have a lot of great organizations here that really and truly want to provide that innovative training. And anytime, of course, Bob, you've been in several meetings and stuff before with me where I've mentioned this about, we have these employees out there that just don't know how to read. So how are we going to continue to do this? And people are bringing up great ideas and people are bringing up great things forward that they're doing. Garrison, I know Drew Hall out there and Joe, they're really trying to work on ways to figure this out. So it's been pretty cool. That's one of the things about this area that I really enjoy working with is just, we have some really good people up here, really good organizations that truly want to take care of their employees. But there goes back into that. OSHA sets enforcement policy and targeted inspection programs. They respond to fatalities, catastrophes, and complaints. We'll talk about that in a minute. Inspections by federal OSHA. Very interesting. We notice a big dip right here, right? So in 2020, we did about half the amount of inspections that we did in 2010. Why is that? Pandemic, right? We couldn't get out and do everything that we did. Now, that doesn't mean that we didn't want to, but that just means we couldn't get out and do the amount we did. But you notice in 2021, that number started bumping up. You can probably start expecting to see people, us a little bit more, the OSHA a little bit more as we move forward. 2022's numbers will probably be a little higher than that. 2024's number or 2023's numbers will probably be a little higher than 2022's. So we're going to get back to the point where we're doing more inspections. All right. So please don't think just because pandemic happened and you haven't seen OSHA that you're going to skate out and not see them again. There's a chance. Now, again, there's 15 people to cover all of North Alabama, so you may skate by that whole answer. I've been in business 30 years and OSHA ain't visited me once. That might be true, but there is that opportunity. You could be popped in on.
You happen to know the numbers for Birmingham for our area?
I do not know them. What are you talking about? Like the inspection numbers?
Inspection numbers. Just out of.
Last year's inspection numbers for Birmingham for the North Alabama?
Well, each office has a different goal, the inspection number they have to do. I think last year for Birmingham area office was 530 inspections per year. So, we do construction and general industry. This year's lower because it depends on the number of compliance officers you have. That's how they assign the compliance officer has a number. And also that number is going down because it's come the time of the agency that a lot of people are retiring. So when they start people, with the pandemic, a lot of people just said, I'm done, I'm retired. And then, as you know, it takes a couple of years to train a new compliance officer to get to the point to independently doing inspections. So it takes at least like 3 years for you to become like, okay, at least a little bit to go out there. So, the numbers will fluctuate and come up and down, but that's just gonna be the average, 3 to 500, at least for us. Some offices go as far as 800 or 900, like Jacksonville, Florida, in Florida it's a lot higher because they have a lot more people. They could have, when I started in Atlanta, we had 23 compliance officers. So our inspection goal was a lot higher. So, yeah.
And one thing is that the federal government is not immune to the workforce problems that are happening. So if it's not that they're not immune, they are even more susceptible technically. It's an aging workforce. We have a largely aging workforce all over the country. If you look at the statistics, I mean, you can go back and look at the statistics. A lot of people have retired or are retiring very, very soon. And the federal government, I remember 2-3 years ago, I was sitting in a briefing and they said 75% of the federal government employees in the Southeast were eligible to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. 75%. All right, I'm 45 and I'm young for the government. Seriously, I mean, it's the way it is. And if we don't get the backfill and we get these kids who don't want to work because, for whatever reason, it gets a little stressful for them. Now my daughter's one of them. Okay, I have to deal with that. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for every agency and every industry, right? And we're seeing that right now too, of mass layoffs and all this other issues that's going on. It's an interesting time. I mean, but we will overcome it and we will do well. 2 types of inspections that we do is unprogrammed and programmed. What do you think an unprogrammed inspection is? What would be an unprogrammed inspection?
Show up.
Huh? They just show up for what reason?
Set.
A complaint, perhaps?
Complaint.
Okay.
Fatality, right? Fatality happens, OSHA's gonna be there. You can automatically expect if a fatality happens, OSHA's gonna be there. If there's a complaint, there's a process for that complaint, and if OSHA deems it is bad enough or substantial enough, they're going to show up, right? And there's other things, we'll talk about that. Programmed inspections are inspections that every year you have certain industries that'll have certain amount of programmed inspections, and then they're going to get hit up every single year. You can already, if you're a part of those industries, and if you are who you are, if you're a part of those industries, you're probably going to get it. Also, you can go on the OSHA website, go to Sergeant Google, look up OSHA national emphasis and local area emphasis programs or local emphasis programs. You can look those up, right? And all those programs in there, you'll see the national emphasis program. What was a big program that popped up last year? What was the big one last year that I was talking about all over, every time I went somewhere last year? Heat, right? That was a new national emphasis program. So you can expect if you have somebody get dehydrated and pass out and get hospitalized, you can expect there's going to be some very serious emphasis on it.
We actually had a couple of, I think 2 or 3 fatalities in Texas last year on heat stress. I don't know if you guys see the video of the UPS drivers falling, conscious while they're making deliveries. We actually had a UPS fatality of a gentleman that, so when you start working for UPS or FedEx, what they do is they put you to a trial period. You have to be able to deliver certain packages in the time that you were given. If you don't meet that requirement, you don't get to keep the job, basically, in your periodic, in your probation period. So there was this gentleman that was trying to make deliveries, and he was feeling the heat stress symptoms, and he was telling his supervisor. Supervisor said, "Oh, just try to finish and try to finish." Kept going, and then the supervisor basically finished the route for him, and he got back to the station. And he told him, "Okay, go home." And then, but he didn't check on this gentleman. And then they found basically his body right there on the parking lot next to his car. Nobody wanted to check that he drank water or that he made it home okay. They didn't find him until like 3 a.m. I was like, what? Found a body. And then, situations like that with heat stress, the training is very important, and you stay hydrated. Those UPS trucks don't have any air conditioning, which the union is trying to fight for them to install air conditioning, which, that's a whole nother issue with unions. But heat stress is very important. And when you're talking about national emphasis programs, you know, our most cited standard is, you know, I want to be 13, which is fall protection. So we have the authority, we're driving around for inspection, or if I drive back, if I see any construction, if I see somebody not wearing fall protection, I'm gonna get one of my compliance officers to go out there. And if you find another things in there, when you're doing other things, we're gonna cite you for that, but we can go in there, it gives us the authority to go in there. Then we have, you know, PSN, poultry is another one that had a lot of amputations and fatalities. You know, we have like chemical releases, will be pneumonia. So we don't have I don't think we have oil and gas over here. We had in Texas. Oil and gas is very, you know, you also get all the fatalities on those when they're doing the
Gas
drilling. Yeah.
We don't have gas drilling here in Alabama.
Just a couple of few, you know, those allow us to, if you get a complaint of forklifts over here, there's a national emphasis program. If we get a complaint about forklifts, the probability is that we're going to do an inspection. Because, you know, forklifts here cause a lot of fatalities. You know, I just had somebody come to my office before I came here. His whole arm was amputated because he was cut between the forklift and a concrete pole. And he was just, the supervisor told him, get on the forklift. But he was, and we talked about this, he was an ex-con. And he was basically doing everything that he could to keep this job. And his supervisor knew. And his supervisor told him, well, learn how to drive the forklift, or if not, basically I'm gonna fire you. And he went to learn a forklift, and then they put it in reverse, one of those stand-up forklifts, and he backed up because he was going forward. And then if you go left, he goes right. If you go left, he goes right. So he turned incorrectly, and he got cut in between a concrete pole, and his whole arm was amputated. And there he was in the office because they didn't even want to pay for his insurance. They threw him out of the hospital almost bleeding to death. And so, you know, they threw me out because I couldn't pay, and, you know, they're not covering workers' comp. So situations like that, you know, that we see, and you know, we try to help those employees, and we don't want it to get to that particular situation. And I'm sorry if I'm taking on.
No, you're good.
You know, but that's the stuff that we see, you know, every day, and that's why, you know, employees are like, oh, you know, this costs money. Well, you know, this person lost their arm. You know, money come and goes, but you know, if you use your arm, your whole arm, and you know, it's gonna even a pinky, even if you lose the tip of your finger. Like somebody that I interviewed lost his trigger finger. He was very upset. He was like, oh, my trigger finger.
I would be too.
You know, oh, my trigger finger is gone. I won't be able to shoot, you know. And it's like, oh, you know, it's just, you know, stuff like that, and it changes your life. And, you know, yeah.
One of the numbers that I share with people frequently when we're talking about injury prevention, it doesn't even have to be a catastrophic injury like that. Even for somebody that has been injured on the job site, they have successful rehab or surgery, whatever the case might be. If you've had a lost time injury on a work site, your earning potential for the next 10 years is about 15% less than somebody who hasn't had an injury. So, and that's even if you come back good. Like if you come back to work and you're able to do your job, your earning potential is 15% less. Now, if you knock anybody's salary down 15%, that is a big pay cut. That's a big pay. So it's not just about avoiding the catastrophes. It's about having an environment that's safe enough that we're not even having the little things. And I know they're not all avoidable, but man, a whole bunch of them avoidable.
Absolutely. And that's the crazy part. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys so we've, of course, you guys know we've had a housing boom, and there's residential construction everywhere. Slowing down a little bit because of all the housing issues that are going on, but you've seen residential construction, you've passed residential construction, you've seen people on those roofs running around like cats with no fall protection on. I see it all the time. You know, those folks should be having fall protection. I joined the Army because of metal roofing. I'll tell you that right now. I joined the Army. I spent my summer after my junior year in high school, my summer after my junior year. I did metal roofing for that summer, and I actually would drive up to Tennessee. It's right across the border over there. I don't forget the name of that town, but we put a metal roof on an elementary school in that town. And I cooked on that metal roof for 3 months, and it wore me out. And there was sharp, some metal roofs are sharp. You're dealing with sharp aluminum. you have slips, trips and falls, you're sitting on top of a roof, heat stress is out of control. I mean, because you're sitting on a tar roof with a piece of metal, it's like being in a microwave. All right, and I was 17 years old. And I mean, I never heard anything about safety. I didn't have gloves. I was shirtless because at 17 years old, I was bulletproof, you know, and I was skinny as I could be back then too. I'm way worse than I am now. And I mean, I figured, you know, I'm skinny enough where the sun ain't even gonna find me. So I was good, but I remember that back then. And that summer, after that summer, my uncle was my recruiter and he lied to me. And for every Christmas after that, after I joined the military, I would cuss him out. And I'd say, you're my uncle today, not my recruiter. And I cussed him out because he lied to me. He told me my job was chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and high yield explosives. That's what it was called. Sounds fancy. Showed me a video in 1996 about this dude sitting in a white lab coat mixing chemicals. No. I finally, after 15 years, actually got an opportunity, but it's a very small subset of that field that gets the opportunity to play with chemicals at all. And I mean, I was very lucky and I was able to get that. Anyway, long story short, metal roofing made me do the Army. I would rather go fight people in Iraq than sit on top of that friggin' roof in Tennessee in the summer. It's miserable, man. It's horrible. But that's imminent danger. That's those folks on top of that roof. You're going in, you're driving, you're seeing something, and you're like, oh God, somebody's gonna kill themselves if we don't stop this right now. Fatality catastrophe, we'll talk more about that in rules. We talked about special emphasis programs and site-specific targeting. Inspection process, when an OSHA inspector comes on, they're going to follow a certain process. They're going to have an opening conference. They're going to do the walk around, closing conference, and then they're going to talk about contest and resolution. Any questions on any of that? Because I can keep going. Have you guys all been a part of OSHA inspections? Anybody not been a part of an OSHA inspection? I know maybe you haven't.
Hopefully good experiences, of course.
My husband's company was.
Okay, yeah. People so my brother, when I told him I was going to start working for OSHA, he cursed me out, right? Literally, my own brother cursed me out. Why would you ever do that? People don't like OSHA, but at the end of the day, man, if you're doing the right thing and you're taking care of your employees, OSHA's not the bad guy. Their only job is to help people. That's all they care about. And that's the thing is it's all about helping people and showing that you're able to help people, showing if your documentation is right and you've shown that you've trained and you've done the right things and all that good stuff, you shouldn't even worry about them. You should invite them. I wouldn't say that, but most people wouldn't invite them. But you should. I mean, you should have no issue seeing them show up on your property if you do the right thing. That's the thing. A lot of people don't want to do the right thing. So violation elements, I'm going to skate through some of this stuff. In order to find a violation, there has to be an applicable standard. You have to have, like Joel just said a while ago, you had the fall protection standard. You know, you have to be able to say that under this standard, it says blah, 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 blah. And that standard is what they were doing wrong. And you have to apply it. That standard has to be applicable. And then you have to be able to say, yes, they were on top of that. There was a certain degree roof that they were walking on without fall protection. That roof was wet and blah, blah, blah. So you had a hazard. Were they exposed? Yes, they were on top of that roof without fall protection. They were exposed to that hazard. You got pictures of it. Everything has to be codified. Because understand, when that compliance officer goes back to their desk after they've been on inspection, when they go back to their desk and they're filling out their reports, they have to have all the documentation, all the pictures, all the everything, because what they do with that report is they send it up to lawyers. And once it gets up to the lawyers are going to do everything they can to make sure that they are right. Right? Because but by the time it gets to you, back to you with money involved, it's already been through lawyers. They've already looked at it and said, yeah, we can cite these things, right? And then of course, employer knowledge is the key. That's another big one. They have to be able to prove that you as the employer knew there was a hazard there. Got on top of a roof without fall protection on. You as an employer knew that guy was up there because you never provided a fall protection. You just said, hey, go build the roof. Classifications other than serious, repeated, willful failure to obey. Talk about those. No, we're not, okay. So, other than serious, what is that? I was getting mixed up. There's notes underneath these. And I was reading the notes earlier and I thought it was a different slide while I did not bring. What's other than serious? Anybody?
Not serious. I'm just kidding.
It's not serious, right? I mean, it's a hazard, but it's not something that's going to, like, right today, it's not gonna kill somebody on the spot, right? It can cause some damage possibly, you know, but one of the things I've always heard and I've always talked to about with a lot of safety people is these other than serious hazards. You can't mitigate everything, right? And anybody's gonna be able to come in and find anything wrong, right? So that's the key. If you have to have a program where you have the opportunity, you go through, you look for everything you possibly can, and you're identifying things, and you have to be able to think like somebody who's gonna do something stupid, right? Because I'm not saying your employees are stupid, but they do stupid things, right? That's like I tell my daughter all the time. My daughter's like, you called me stupid. No, you did something stupid. You're not stupid. You're a very intelligent person, but you did something really dumb, you know? And that's the thing is you have to think in that manner. That's something I used to tell some of my junior guys before. You have to think like you're somebody that's just not paying attention, not doing anything. Think about it too. If you have forklifts in your area and you have a bunch of Gen Zers operating forklifts, what do you think those Gen Zers are going to do? One thing they're going to do is they're going to have earphones in, right? They're going to put some earphones in because why can't they listen to music when they're working? Okay. What if somebody calls me? I have to be able to answer the phone when somebody calls. What if my mom needs me? Right? I'm not joking. This is true. That's how these kids operate. You got to think about those things, right? Those are small things. Okay. Serious hazards. Those are things. What's the serious hazard? Serious, right?
Causing damage.
It can cause serious damage, injuries. Repeated, that's, you know, we've come out here before and seen you do this and seen this hazard, and we've talked to you about this hazard. We've discussed abatement procedure. Dollar General, repeated, right? You know what's crazy about Dollar General? So here's one of the things from a CAS perspective. My thought is, as a CAS, my job is to help, right? My job, I'm free help. You can call me, you can talk to me, I'm there, I've got technical assistance. We can even get into an alliance where I can work with you to develop programs to help your people and help other people in your industry. We can do that. That's what we can do. Dollar General caught hell from OSHA, right? Because naturally, if any of you guys have ever been in a Dollar General, you know those aisles are all kinds of screwed up and you know what, right? So I called Dollar General up in here in Alabama, one of the warehouses, and I said, hey guys, let's work together. I want to work with you. Man, we don't need any help. Thanks. All right, Amazon, same thing. I called Amazon up, spoke to one of their safety people. Oh, we're good. We don't need help. We're good. Okay. I mean, what can I do? I'm trying. I mean, like, look, man, we can work together. But no. So be it. Willfuls are willfuls, right? If you purposely, I saw this hazard and I did not fix this hazard. That is willful, right? And then failure to abate. I saw the hazard, I didn't fix the hazard again, or OSHA's come in and they've seen this hazard, they saw this hazard, we worked through an abatement thing and then they didn't abate it, right? Top 10 violations for 22. This is all industries. This isn't just single industries. We'll break out construction and general industry here in a minute. Fall protection, general requirements. That's 501B, I think is what you said earlier, right? 501B13, which is part of that hazard or that standard. Fall protection, general requirements, hazard communication, ladders. How many of you guys have had OSHA updates in the past? Or had been set through briefing similar to this? None? Oh, I would have thought several of y'all have. Those hazards have been the same for years. Every year it's the same hazards. The only thing that's changed, that's kind of made it in the top 10, that wasn't in the top 10 for a while, is respiratory protection. That's a newer one, right? Of course, we found respiratory protection issues, but respiratory protection has kind of snuck up in there. Why? COVID, right? Got people walking around with N95 masks on. You know you have to test them, right? 1910-134 says if you wear a respiratory device, you have to have a respiratory protection program, right? You have to test your people, you have to do everything. N95s are considered a half face piece mask. They're an actual mask. So you can't have people walk around with N95s on. Fall protection, a bunch of machine guarding. Machine guarding is another one. You know, I don't get why people, my father's basement, you guys may have heard me say this before, but it gives me anxiety to go down into my father's basement. So my father's 70, he has a machine shop, or he's not a machine shop, but he has a tool shop down there. My father's an upholsterer by trade. He's been doing upholstery my whole life. He's been doing upholstery. And he's got all kinds of tools. He makes furniture. He does all kinds of stuff. It scares me to go in his, I don't know how that man, and knock on wood, because he's 70 and he's still doing it. All right. The other day, my mom called me and said, guess what your dad did today? Like what? She said, he had an 18-foot ladder and was climbing up on got up to the ceiling to change a light bulb. And I was holding the ladder. He put it on top of the table. He has a huge ceiling. He put a ladder, big old ladder on top of the table and hung it up. And 70-year-old man now, knees ain't good. Right? He has to literally throw one leg over to pull his knee up sometimes. And he's climbing up this ladder to change a light bulb. But man, that man gives me anxiety. I don't know. And then every machine, he buys every machine he gets from Harbor Freight because they're cheap, right? And half of them don't have machine guards on them. And the ones that do, he breaks them off. Yeah, he removes them. So it is craziness. We got to pay better attention to machine guard. Fall protection, general requirements. This is your construction. Again, fall protection, ladders, scaffolding, same thing that's always there. Head protection. Yeah, we used to, when I was doing that metal roofing, I thought it was fine. I've always said it since then, but we used to sit there and when we would throw something off the roof, we wouldn't look before we threw anything, right? We were just sitting up on the roof and we had something that we needed off, we'd just throw it off and we'd yell, headache, right? And that people knew something was coming. They didn't know where it was coming from, but they knew something was coming. That was 1995, 94. I'm not saying I do that anymore. Please. Respiratory protection. Yeah, these are your general industry stuff. Again, general industry respiratory protection. You got people that's not wearing the right masks or they're not doing the right programs and stuff like that. You got to follow those rules on 1910-134. Penalties. So for those violations we talked about earlier, serious, other than serious, and posting requirements, these numbers have went up. All right, it's $15,625 per violation for serious, other than serious, and posting requirements. Right now, it starts getting fun. For willful or repeated, $156,259 per violation, right? 10 times. Now the fun one, the really fun one, is failure to abate, right? OSHA comes in, y'all find a problem, or they find a problem, you guys discuss it. They tell you, hey, you have so many days to provide us with abatement procedures, right? Or how you're going to abate this. You tell them how you're going to abate it, and you just say, I don't want to abate it. I don't want to spend that money. OSHA's going to come back. And they're going to look, and if they don't see it, every day after that date you told them that you were going to abate it by, they're going to charge you $15,625 a day after that day, per day. So 10 days, you reach this mark. All right. Keep going, it definitely can get a lot higher. So these were just adjusted for inflation, by the way. So now you can have those penalties adjusted, and that's when you go see Joel and his management group. That's their decisions to make, right, Joel?
History, we've been inspected. We can go back 5 years for history. We went inspected the past 5 years. We can use that as some information. Or for knowledge too, because if you've been cited, maybe it was 7 years ago, you still have the same management group, then you will aware, you know about that particular standard. The good faith is if you develop a safety and health program, if you have that in writing and you train your employees on it, it gives you good faith. You can give you up to 25%, depending on how good your program is, and then the size. If a company can get up to a 70% reduction if they have 10 employees or less, so if you have a small employer, you get reduction. More than 500 employees, you get zero reduction. But it goes like 10%, 20%, and 60%. So depending on your size, the smaller you are, the more reductions you get.
Yeah, so OSHA does realize, hey, look, you've got a small employer, they don't make a lot of money. You're not gonna expect them to pay this so much. This is gonna bankrupt the employer. We're not trying to bankrupt you. We're just trying to give you a little slap on the hand and say, hey, fix your crap, right? Any questions so far? We've been at it for a minute. I just want to make sure everybody's good. I need to push through. Getting long-winded.
About 10 minutes.
10 more minutes. Got it. All right. Criminal referrals, criminal sanctions can't happen, right? If things are bad, if there is a fact that the employer is not taking care of the employee and they're getting people killed and all kinds of other fun stuff, it has to be the fact that employers are definitely not doing their job. To obtain that conviction, they must establish certain conditions beyond a reasonable doubt. Safety pays. There's a website. You can go on OSHA.com. I believe it's OSHA.com/safety pays. And you can actually use that website to do kind of like what Justin was saying earlier with, you can use that website here to kind of show how much each injury is hurting your company and what you can do. How, if I put these mitigating efforts in fact or in place or stuff, I can save this much money. So it's a good website to use called Safety Pays. If you just Google OSHA Safety Pays, something like that, it'll take you to it.
Just real quickly, about 2 slides back, when you're talking about criminal fines for OSHA non-compliance, our speaker next month is going to be Bruce Henderson. He's an attorney and he works with this stuff, and he's going to be talking about some of the stuff that can happen. They can find individuals now. They can charge individuals in a company for negligence if there's been a fatality or a serious injury, and they find that a supervisor or owner or manager knew about what was going on and didn't abate it. There can be, not just the company can get in trouble, there can be individual criminal charges. So Bruce is going to be talking a little bit about that next month as well.
For criminal referrals, it has to be a fatality and it has to be willful.
Yeah.
So if you're cited a willful and a fatality, it's automatically referred to the solicitors or to the district attorney. They will decide whether they would charge it, like they're saying, with the personal, that supervisor or the company itself. They would probably go after both, depending on how much it is willful like that. So I had one before that were building a roof, working at 3 a.m. and they didn't have any lights. And when you remove the membrane of the very top, the boards were black because they have black paper. So you couldn't see and it was dark. They didn't have any boards or anything to hit it, and it was rotten. And the gentleman just stepped in and fell 40 feet, hit a table, and he died. I gave him a willful, and then they went ahead and for a criminal referral. So it was a fatality and it was a willful violation. But I told them, this gentleman, he's probably in Mexico somewhere. They're not going to find him anymore. So, but they're slow because district attorneys and all that is very slow. So it's usually a slow process unless you have a lot of media attention. Then maybe quicker, but it's usually a very slow process because once you're going criminal, it's a whole different ballgame. Yeah.
But outside the criminal type stuff and civil litigation, we're seeing that a lot too, not just, if you have a vehicle fleet and you're in an accident and somebody calls one of the billboard attorneys, they're naming the driver and the company with in the suits now. It's not uncommon to see individuals even on the civil side.
That's what we tell companies, it's not just our violations, because we don't get involved with any of this. Any civil litigation or anything like that, we don't get involved. But, you know, you're opening yourself up. America, you can sue anybody, but, you know, it's, if you're, you know, our violations say you get this violation, you know, where you're not saying that you're admitting at fault, because you can get a language and when you sign the agreement that says you're not admitting that you made it wrong as a company, but they can still use that against you.
Did y'all see that there was a dude that sued Buffalo Wild Wings because the boneless wings are not technically chicken wings? Seriously, he didn't lose, he didn't win it, but yeah, he literally sued them because he was like, those aren't chicken wings. And they're advertising them as boneless wings.
Imagine being a lawyer, it's like, I went to school to study all this and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Their response that they had on social media, they said, yeah, and also our buffalo wings are made of buffalo.
Yeah, but they're made from Buffalo, New York, like they were originated in Buffalo, New York. Hence the reason. But yeah, it's craziness. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not on that. Let's say this. Record keeping. Everybody understands the record keeping stuff, right? Got to do your 300. You got to do your 300 alpha every year. You have to do it, right? If you're fewer than 10 employees, you can get away with it. If you're in certain industries, you can get away with it. If you want to know if your industry is there or not, look at 1904 and go through there and find it out. Okay. I'm not going to harp too much on that. I do get a lot of calls about record. As in a CAS, I get a lot of technical assistance calls about record. I get a lot of technical assistance calls about, hey, should I put this person, you know, do I have to report this specific injury? And then you have to get down into the weeds on what does that mean? What is a reportable? What is a recordable? You know, is it first aid? What is first aid? There's a bunch of stuff. 1904 can be a painful read. It can be kind of different sometimes. I implore you guys, everybody in here knows what the standard interpretations are and all that other good stuff. Go look it up. Most of those will answer your questions.
And what I recommend is if you don't know or if you're unsure, just record it. You have 5 years to go back and delete it anyway. So, but if you don't record something and it's recordable, you know, anything that requires more than first aid is recordable. So if you have somebody that cut themselves and they went to the little first aid kit and they, you know, put a little, you know, he killed themselves and it's fine. But if you still want to record it, you can. You know, OSHA is the bare minimum. If you want to go above and beyond, you know, you can. You know, just like I've seen employers, you know, that require all the PPE, hard hats and everything. And, you know, the employees are complaining, oh, they require hard hats. The ceiling is not going to fall on top of you or the sky is not going to fall on top of you. But if your employer requires you, you can't tell them not to do it. So, but yeah, but for the hearing logs, that would be like another serious violation, like you mentioned before. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're good. No, if you want to keep going, you're the boss. No, but the sticky point sometimes is, so I was a safety manager. Okay, I've played the games. I've done it. I know, I understand, right? There's certain things, anytime you're sitting there getting close to that TCIR, that dark rate, and you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I keep reporting this? What is this? What is this? Oh yeah, by the way, if they get hospitalized, but they don't receive, they receive they don't receive actual care. I forget what it's called. There's wording in there where, okay, well, they went to the hospital, but they didn't.
They were not admitted.
They were not admitted, right? They received care that wasn't, you know, that it was gosh, I forget the way that was that word. But anyway, yeah, it's a game. I get it. But make sure that if you are playing that game, you are playing it correctly. That's the key, right? Make sure that you're playing it correctly, because if you mess up, again, Joel said, you said it's a willful, right?
Oh, no, it's not willful. It's other than serious, like record keeping.
Serious.
But if you get hospitalized, or if you got an injury that employee's hospitalized, or you have an amputation, you have to report that to us, you know, within 24 hours. So if you do not, and then the employee calls us and tells us that oh, I had an amputation last month, or an amputation last week, or I was hospitalized, you know, you will get an automatic inspection, and that's a violation for not just reporting it. That's automatic. Even before it's going out there, you already have one violation. Same thing with the fatalities. You have to report it within 8 hours. And this is 24 hours and 8 hours when you had knowledge, or any management in your company had knowledge that this amputation or hospitalization or fatality occurred. So if you have the first line supervisor that is aware of it, and you don't have reasonable ways for him to tell you what happened, then that's a company issue. It's not an OSHA issue. So if a manager knows about it, doesn't matter if, oh, he didn't follow procedure well. The company has to have procedures from legal ways to identify that they're following it. So, no.
Yeah, that was the one I remember when you were talking about it with that inpatient hospitalization. It's diagnostic versus actual treatment, right? X-rays are diagnostic. They're not treatment.
So most of the time they will not admit you.
Yeah.
That's the talking point, that the attorneys will bring in, well, he wasn't admitted or she wasn't admitted. So,
Yeah, so there's some stuff involved. How to report those fatalities, again, 8 hours, within 8 hours, you have to report that fatality. Now, I have seen companies just say, we're not gonna report this. We're just gonna push it to the side because we don't want to share. I have heard of that. I've actually heard of it in this last year, fatality. I've actually heard about it this year. Now, it got to the office, but yeah, I have heard about it.
happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Family members or or you get it from the media, or something didn't happen, that we didn't get a report. And we'll investigate and we'll go out.
So this is how you report that. Severe injury reporting, again, better target agents, okay. Oh, yeah, that's that's what that severe injury reporting is designed to do. It gives us more opportunities. I can go out and talk, it gives me more opportunities as a CAS to talk. Electronically submitting, you guys, if you have to do this, you know that you have to do this and you're doing it. I've had several calls from people about that too. Workers' rights, employees have the right to report unsafe conditions, assist in OSHA investigations, request training and request PPE. Whistleblower rights, if you don't know them, they have them. I will tell you that OSHA Region 4 is making a big push of getting down to as many of the underserved, as much of the underserved community as they can to make sure they understand what their whistleblower rights are. And part of that is because of this formerly incarcerated gentleman. We're going out to these formerly incarcerated folks. There's organizations that work with them. And we are going out to them and talking to them about their whistleblower rights and stuff like that. If you ever want to get me on a soapbox, let's talk about prison system. There's something about that prison system for me that just don't sit right. But that's a whole different story. I don't have time for that. Whistleblower protections, again, you cannot retaliate. You cannot retaliate. I've got a whole story about that. I got a really sad story from, there's been a couple times where I've seen really bad things happen out of people getting treated negatively for blowing, okay? Between whatever it was, sexual harassment, sexual assault, things like that. I've actually been in units, been in organizations where people have committed suicide and things like that because of retaliation. It's a bad thing. You're not supposed to do it. You can't do it. And the other side of that too is what you can't do either is you can't wait 2 months and then do something, right? You can't wait 2-3 months. As an employer, you cannot punish those people, right? People do it. People are sneaky. People hold on to things and they're like, oh, okay, well, I know my rights. I can't do this right now. It's grimy to be sitting there waiting 2-3 months down the road to punish somebody because you think you got through it. Or whatever. Compliance assistance, we help employers. These are our numbers that we've done throughout all of OSHA. We work out of the area offices. Again, you guys have seen me for the past year or so. This is what we do. Stuff like this. Publications, OSHA.gov/publications, or like Joel said earlier, you can go to the area office, ask them, talk to the compliance assistant specialist, ask them. Spanish language resources, they're there. Compliance assistance resources, just Google OSHA compliance assistant specialist or OSHA compliance assistants and you'll get all these. On-site consultation program, that's what Matt's group does. The UA Safe State folks, they're there to help you. They can do a lot of things that I cannot. And they can do a lot of things that enforcement cannot. They're not enforcement. They can come onto your site and go through and they've got years and years and years and years of knowledge and lots of experience being able to recognize hazards and things like that. And they can come to your site and walk through your site with you to show you what your hazards are and help you, right? It's nice. They're free. Why not use them? And there's other things that they can do. We'll talk about the SHARP program. There's part of that too. There's only 1,130 SHARP sites across the US, but this is a program. It's kind of, you guys have heard of the Voluntary Protection Program, VPP, for big organizations. SHARP is like their version of VPP. It's a very similar thing where they work with organizations to develop their safety and health management systems and things like that. Other publications, OSHA.gov publications. We have cooperative programs, alliances. I talked about those briefly earlier. There's partnerships where we currently have 3 partnerships in the North Alabama area. One of them we're about to sign. Alliances, we have 2 ambassadors, and then we have we're hoping to open up another alliance in Alabama here soon. VPP, we talked about that, OSHA Challenge, all that. All right, let's see where we're at. I talked about this. I'm gonna slide through some of this stuff. I'm running close. I'm getting close.
Yeah, we're tired.
Right at it.
That's okay.
OTI education centers, talk to Matt if you need to know about that stuff there. He's part of that whole group there out of UA. Outreach events. If you need to know what the outreach events are, you can go on OSHA, the OSHA website. You can Google OSHA Outreach Events 2023, and you can get a calendar of what all those are, where your National Construction Week, National Work Zone Week, Fall Prevention Stand Down, all that good stuff. Heat illness prevention, we discussed that earlier. I had a story about that, but we got whatever, stand up for grain safety. We don't have to worry about that one here. Work zone awareness. Work zone awareness is a big one. Francisco and I are in the works of getting an alliance for work zone awareness. It's just going real slow. And he's working with a group down there, trying to get it done. Fall prevention campaign. We work on that one a lot. If you are in the construction industry, you'll see work on that. Safe and sound. That's about your safety and health management systems. A lot of groups get into that. All right. Suicide prevention is a big one. Again, I could sit here and talk about suicide prevention all night, all day. Justin's got stories about it. Suicide's probably touched everybody's life. It's definitely touched mine on a few occasions. Temporary workers, that's a big one, right? That's a big one. Temp workers, make sure that they're taken care of. Contact us. Okay, last slide. Contact us, right? And as far as these slides are concerned, he has the slides. If y'all need to get them from him, y'all can get them and go through them and work through and see what's going on, okay? So, sorry I had to rush through it. We only have so much time. And there we go.
Thank you.
I could have gone. Thank you. It's all right.
Yeah, and there is, to your point, there really is a lot of good information in that slide deck. We did record the session so that our members would have it for future use, but if we could get that slide deck, and we can send it out for sure. A lot of good info in there. Any questions, any additional questions? Hey, we'll go ahead and grab a sandwich. We're really up against a hard stop at 1 o'clock. For those who have to go, please feel free to do so. But I'll give you about 5 minutes to get your drink in your box, and then we'll just talk through a couple of items we need to discuss before releasing, and we'll try to end it. All right.
There is turkey, ham, and roast beef over there, and there's white and wheat for each of them.
All right. So if you're picky, you better hurry.
Yeah.
I hate that I had to cut it short.
No, that's all right, man. It's good information, and it's actually good to hear you because you bring it to life. It's different than what we've done in the past. You kind of give it a more practical.
You want to say something, Bob?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Oh, I'll just say, enjoy the meeting. You'll have a great one. Take care.
So Bob here, Powers Watson.
Yeah.
Powers.
No, I won't be here.
Bye, everybody.
My thing is put stories in.
So I'll tell you, if there's
That's very interesting. Yes, my husband had.
situated, so that was a thing. When you get a chance to
Me on that.
like that, you just gotta.
Oh, no, I think the program is.
Reading my OSHA chart.
There to help. Such a bad outfit. Right, they are, that creates. We're in fourth, we are. So it's the same.
Yeah, it's been.
My friend.
Are you gonna eat a sandwich? There you go.
All right.
Oh, please take a sandwich though, because anything that you don't take, I gotta take home. I don't have anything left in my house to eat.
State University.
Chat later.
There's somewhere. Down 565. We get the bridge to go on the river.
They're actually,
You can do anything there.
I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't know, with the new job, I don't know if I will have the opportunity to do it.
they're a very big school.
Actually.
But they might try to do some. It's here. Once in a couple hours, the whole state. So.
And it's a small
you know,
chapter, it's just,
I feel like we've got
there's those sections of it.
pretty good turnout. We got a. You know.
I know several of the guys, Eddie Evans.
So I would think that, would be, really beneficial in this, and.
I'll have to look into that, because, yeah, again, it's just.
They're aware that there's.
That's the thing, but we have something that's.
Yeah.
They don't.
Want that? I want those brochures.
Oh, I just, I just put them back in there.
I know, I saw you have one in mind. You guys, been at the governor's conference this year?
No, we're down to Tuscaloosa. No, but hey, by the way, we're registered.
I'm presenting there.
We'll see you there.
And,
I'll leave early on Saturday. I've got a wedding. See you on Friday.
They're pretty good. I'm looking at all the, so,
15 or 16, something like that. It was the US Bible.
Or 6.
That is. And how we get.
I'll be glad to send you again. You want,
Thing is.
Stuff going on, y'all got some stuff going on.
You're talking about. Allow Sunday courses. Well,
if they don't have an AED.
Take a picture of the sign sheet over there.
Get out your yard.
I've done all the numbers.
Here, Vincent, will you take a picture of, Carolina? We'll be here tomorrow. So, just been playing that ground. Bell curve county, love it.
It is. Sodium potassium.
Thank
So
you,
you
sir.
make it taller.
And the outcomes that you sort of put in that program,
Hey, we're gonna cover a couple of items while you're eating today. You keep networking, that's really what this association is all about, so you're not gonna offend me. You gotta keep talking. Just a couple of things for coming again. Couple of things. Number one, we want to talk about the upcoming elections. Matt served as our nominating chair for the upcoming election, and it's been noted both in the newsletter as well as in last month's meeting that the officer currently, the officer ballot, if you will, the slate of officers proposed is Tom Pinnick there for president, Justin here for vice president. Vincent will remain as secretary and Alan Holliday will remain as treasurer. Any change to that, Matt?
No, that's our slate. I'm targeting May 5th as our day to do this. It will be done on basically. If you are paid up as a ASSE national member, we're going to be running it through the national. So those people will be contacting you, and you can go ahead and we hope everybody participates and cast their vote. But we're pointing towards May. I've still got to get that confirmed with region. Probably contact Jerry sometime next week. And, that's the game plan.
Yeah, it's good. Now the ASSP is the same thing that Matt referenced as ASSE. Showed his age there.
That's a.
It's okay, it's okay. Oh, that's right, that's right. The Region 4 PDC is coming up in Tuscaloosa. We'll actually be hosting it, and if you haven't volunteered already to moderate or we would appreciate it. Surrounding that event. That is the week of 27 April. 26th and 7th, excuse me, I would have messed it up. Yep, 26th and 7th of April down in Tuscaloosa at the Bryant Conference Center. Wonderful venue and a great show of both exhibitors and speakers. Any other new business?
It's not new. I don't think we talked a lot about the survey last meeting. But we did put it in the newsletter, and we'll be sending that out. Finally, we'll be sending it out next week. So it'll go out and be out a few weeks, and I can get everybody's participation.
Right. Please participate in, again, what that survey is intended to do is to get an idea of what really interests you all. And so that we can use that information to plan a more, I don't know, more effective, but a very direct year of program, making sure we cover what you guys want to see covered. Thank you for saying that. Yep. We'd like to have 100% participation, but that's
and if all the people in this room answer the survey, it really doesn't do us a whole lot.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Any other questions, comments, or needs? Anything else anyone wants to bring up? You guys have seen several jobs, to Jason's point earlier about companies finding it difficult to hire people. I have seen and been contacted by more headhunters and such in searching for safety. Oh, you're a safety guy right now and want to work. There's a job for you, that's for sure. A good sign in one way and a bad sign in another.
Industrial hygiene is struggling. People are struggling for industrial hygiene. That's a big one. If you have kids that are even closely remotely interested in it, UAB is trying to get people to fill those spots. And industrial hygiene is a job that you're gonna make money in.
Yeah, look at Vincent, man, he's he made it to the defense.
Basically got his,
Missile defense.
got his thumb on the red button, basically.
Yeah. Said, he's got the little box out there in his car. That usually it's handcuffed to his wrist. But if there's nothing else, you know, there's no rush to rush off. But we did want to finish on time because we knew there's always some that leave. Of course, it's Carol today, but there's always some that need to leave. And we'll be respectful of that time. But again, thank you guys for coming and for participating and be looking for that survey. Now enjoy lunch.